CM Punk kicks off Raw this week on Netflix. He says last week on Raw's debut on Netflix he finally got rid of his Seth Rollins problem and now it's time for him to win the Royal Rumble. Punk says after 10 years he came back to the company and got injured right away and the lights were so blinding that sometimes he couldn't see as he does John Cena's taunt. He says he sees Cena and he always has and he knows he's in the 2025 Royal Rumble this year and now, so is he as he officially enters. Seth Rollins then interrupts. He says he only tells the truth and that's why he interrupted Punk because he promised no matter what he would show up. Rollins says if he didn't he would be Punk and says last week was the biggest loss of his career and he can't let it go, so he's going to enter the Royal Rumble too and win it to crush the dreams of Punk and everybody else too. Drew McIntyre then interrupts them both. McIntyre says Punk and Rollins are both just awful human beings and phonies because they are all talk and no action. He says Rollins is especially pathetic and he's a loser that's only worried about himself. Punk says he's done talking and tells them to get in the ring but McIntyre refuses and says he's only worried about stopping the bloodline and since nobody else will it has to be him. He then promises to win the Royal Rumble to make sure Roman Reigns will never get the WWE Championship back. Penta arrive in WWE. Penta defeats Chad Gable in his WWE debut on Raw on Netflix. After the match he says WWE and Raw are his new home and he couldn't be more excited because he's waited for this all his life. He says it's a new era of WWE on Netflix but it's also the era of Penta. Sheamus defeats Ludwig Kaiser. After the Sheamus gets into it with IC champion Braun Breaker who's sitting in the crowd. Gunther says nobody impressed him last week on Raw's debut on Netflix and that they were all pathetic. He says nobody is worthy to face him for the World Championship as Jey Uso interrupts. Jey says it's time for him to become a world champion and he wants to face Gunther for the title at Saturday night's main event on January 25th in San Antonio, Texas. Gunther says Jey should think about that because he's a joke and not on his level whatsoever. He says if they get in the ring he will embarrass him and expose him as a simple tag team wrestler and even though he calls himself Main Event as a nickname he actually belongs in the main event each and every single day. Jey says Gunther is right and he was scared to go on his own and while he might be better than him, he's still going to take his title and earn his respect at SNME. Sami Zayn defeat The Miz. Damian Priest defeat Finn Balor.